Good afternoon and welcome to United TV. After 2 weeks break, we are back live with everyone. So we just reached out to 250,000 subscribers. So we thank everyone who are following us and supporting us. So today, Jessica Needles going to join me and uh, two issues that we are going to discuss. One is where we are with the Epstein files, and the second one is AI-related suicides. There are about 7 of them, so we are going to go into those. And since we have our legal correspondent for our show, so she's going to actually give us some background on these issues and where these things are going to go and what liabilities these companies may have. I'm going to welcome Jessica. Jessica, how are you doing?
Hi, Kemal. I'm doing well. Welcome back. You were in Turkey, right?
Thank you. I just got back actually yesterday. So I was in New York for Monday, and then yesterday I got here. So it's first day in the office. A little bit tired, a little bit sick, but we are okay. And in case people are hearing on the background, we do have another guest in the studio.
A very special guest.
Very special guest. So Dr. Joshua is with me. We call him Dr. Joshua. So he has his white coat and all that. So he's going to behave. Otherwise, we are going to kick him out. So
And I don't know if people can see Dr. Joshua. He is gorgeous, stately. Was it a golden doodle?
Golden Doodle, yeah.
Yes.
So he's going to be 4 in May.
Happy early birthday, buddy.
Thank you. Now, we have 2 really serious topics that we are going to discuss. And Epstein is an extremely interesting situation. So we have been talking about it. Prior to you joining the show, it's almost a year now, right?
Gosh, has it really been that long?
So I actually was covering this on my own. You being on the show and then bringing the legal aspect of everything that we are discussing, it puts a little bit more responsibility on me as well, because nothing can be a joke. And this thing was on and off, and it used to get some public attention. Then it was cooling off a little bit and came back again, and a lot of speculations around this. And today, all these files are being out. Now, I'd like to actually know if you feel the same way. So, although files are out, but it's really difficult to navigate and find what you are looking for. So, when you make this public, is it really helpful? I am not sure. So, how do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, there's still a lot that's not public. My understanding is there are about 6 million files in total. There was a 30-day deadline to release everything that has long since passed, and only 3 million files have been released, and they're heavily redacted. And they should have been redacted with the victims or the survivors' names, but the redactions, I mean, you can actually see the survivors' names sometimes unredacted.
Yes.
And there are other redactions where I don't think the redactions are appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't really tried to navigate these files very much. I mean, a little bit here or there. I mean, I assume you can just open one up, do the search F, like the find feature, and find a name. But if there's a nickname or if there's somebody who's there's a misspelling or a typo, I mean, you're going to be limited in what you can find. It's so voluminous. There's so much stuff that in itself makes it extremely challenging to look at.
So I did a lot of search in the files. So the issue is, one, you have to really know what you are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 is, for finding one whole thing, there may be one email. So someone replied to that, someone replied to that. So then each of them, you have to open them one by one. Now, one other issue that I see now, before I left, there was a Turkish episode that I did with one of my friends, and then there are a lot of discussions in Turkish politics, because they actually put a different spin on this. And I saw something similar to that in the US, but I think the issue of being named or being on these files or making a reference on these files are all different things. So he's a really he's an interesting person. I'm saying he is because I still don't think that he died. So if he died, then he was an interesting person. He kept everything. So like sometimes he sends messages to himself as like this happened, that happened, and it's just like a notebook, like a journal. He uses emails like a journal. So, but if he uses, let's say, some name as, hey, we need to reach out to this person. Let's say that person is Donald Trump. So that has nothing to do with the file itself because he's just being made as a reference. So the name is there, but that doesn't mean that that name is on the file. The other things that I see is, second group is some people were not just only reference, but he said, for example, one of the issues that I see with the Turkish foreign minister, he said, I had a meeting with him for 30 minutes. Now, I couldn't see the confirmation of that from the Turkish minister side. So then he says, I had a one-on-one with the Turkish foreign minister for 90 minutes in Afghan airspace. But I don't have anything validating whether or not that happened. So it's a little bit more than the first one. First one is just a reference. The second one is reference with some substance with specifications. And the third one is the people who really interacted with him. And that's some issues that many people are not understanding. They think that this just files there, and if you just type like my name, if my name showed up there, that's not it. So if you can elaborate that a little bit.
Sure. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. There's going to be names that appear because, again, we're talking millions and millions of pages of documents. And I've seen, like, I think Jimmy Kimmel was one of the people or maybe Stephen Colbert was in there. And it was just like a throwaway line, a joke, like, oh, this is going to end up on the Colbert Show, or this is going to end up on Jimmy Kimmel. So, yeah, just looking for someone's name and seeing the name pop up in an email doesn't automatically mean that they were doing anything illegal. And you are correct that, you can have something that's in an email or in a document that can't be corroborated. Like you can have Jeffrey Epstein writing a memo to himself saying, I met with so-and-so, and then there's nothing on the other end to corroborate that. So that is one of the limitations. I mean, I think some people have been using this term files to mean that there's going to be like a spreadsheet with everybody's name on there. And like if you're on that spreadsheet, then yeah, you've done something wrong. It's not as simple as that. You have to really kind of dig through and put things into context in files that are oftentimes heavily redacted or just lacking the additional information that you might need to be able to kind of put things into perspective.
So do you think this was helpful to make this public?
Do I think it was helpful? Well, I think that this administration ran on a campaign promise that the files were going to be released. I think that the general public, like I just said, had maybe a misconception about what the files were going to be like, that it would be maybe like a little black book that really kind of listed out everyone's name and what they were guilty of. There are still millions of files that have not been released yet, so I don't know what's in them. And also the way that they're being released is making it a bit more cumbersome and difficult to kind of delve into. I was actually watching a little bit of Pam Bondi at that Senate hearing, and from that, what I gathered is so the Senate and the House, they voted unanimously to release these files. It was signed by President Trump, and then the files were supposed to be released. There was this 30-day deadline that was missed. And then when members of Congress wanted to look at the files, there were apparently like 4 computers that you had to go to the DOJ to access. They didn't have the ability to look at them separately, look at them on their own. It's just the amount of information that's available, even though there are so many files, the amount of information that's been made available so far doesn't really seem to be clearing much up.
Right. So, what about whether or not it's everyone's right to know what's happening? So, why is government still keeping certain files, not making them available? And is this helpful or is it actually hurting the whole case?
That's a good question, and I don't think that we have an actual response to that yet. I mean, I believe the general response is that, well, we have to go through and we have to make these redactions. The idea being they're going to redact survivors' names. And that is going to take an incredibly long amount of time, considering just how much information there is to go through. The DOJ does have like 100,000 people that can be combing through these files and redacting things, although I guess, obviously as important as the Epstein files are, generally speaking, there are other crimes happening too, and the DOJ has other people to prosecute. But no, I don't think it's helpful that everything hasn't been released yet. I think that ultimately, everything has to be put out into the public because that's the law. That's the law that was signed by President Trump.
So when these files, 3.5 million, when they were released, not everyone is able to differentiate someone being named versus someone being charged. But someone being named just because maybe harming from that process, even if they are not guilty, and their business may be affected by this, their position, their job, their family. What type of liability governments, or is it Department of Justice in this case, has when this actually has unexpected harm on individuals who are not really guilty?
Well, you're absolutely correct that just having your name appear in the files doesn't mean that you're guilty of anything. And if somebody, a private citizen or their business is found to be in the files and their business is harmed by it, I don't know what kind of ramifications there would be, because I mean, if you're in the files, you're in the files, and you would just have to point out what the context is and explain why your name is in there and how it isn't related at all to anything illegal or untoward. I would have to see, I think, a specific example in order to really be able to answer that question. But I don't see how there could be liability, like defamation or something. Well, you're not being defamed. It's in black and white. There's your name right there.
So, like, Clinton's last time when we discussed this, they were refusing to go to the court for subpoena request, right? So after that, they did. I saw a couple clips from Hillary Clinton, and she was refusing the entire thing. That they never had any interactions with them, except maybe Clintons went to the island for some nonprofit events. Where is this gonna go? Like someone like, and I watched a couple of our shorts that was made from the last video, and you kept saying, "Hey, it doesn't matter who it is. So if they are guilty, they need to face the consequences." So, but this may get really potentially big. It's already big, but it can even go out of control. And not knowing, it's also a little bit politically motivated as well. Where is this going to go, in your opinion?
I still maintain that if somebody has done something illegal, that they should face consequences for it. So regardless of who you are or how powerful you are, if you have committed a crime, unless there's some other immunities involved, But if you've committed a crime, especially one as heinous as the trafficking of minors, that you should be brought to justice for that. Now, that's my opinion. That's what I think should happen. Is that
Hmm.
what's actually going to happen? That I don't know, because I do think if you have a lot of money, if you have a lot of power, uh, we've seen it happen time and time again where people who are in positions of power have gotten away with things that an average person would not have gotten away with.
Hmm.
But I mean, I agree that if it seems like there are a lot of pretty influential people who are wrapped up in all of this,
Hmm.
and I don't know how it's all going to play out. I, I mean, like we were talking about before, it's not just that your name is in the file.
Right.
In order to be charged, to be arrested, to be charged, to go in front of a jury with that information, there has to be other evidence. So just because your name is mentioned in an email doesn't mean that you're going to go to prison. But if the DOJ uncovers things, if there's evidence enough that somebody can be prosecuted for a crime, then it's my opinion that regardless of who they are, that nobody's above the law.
So, kind of going back to what you just mentioned with Bondi's, she testified, I guess, right? Or she was questioned by the
Yeah, she was
Congress.
questioned.
Um, what was your take on that? Like, whatever you have seen so far from that interview with different people, different Congress members asking questions, her kind of reaction or the way that she was answering the questions from the legal standpoint, like you are a lawyer, and I mean, it may be all different for everyone, but was that like different for you? Like, what was your take?
My understanding is when you're in that position, if somebody is questioning you, they get 5 minutes to ask
Hmm.
questions, and you're responsible for responding to the questions, not filibustering, not evading. Um, some of my response is going to be colored by my own personal feelings and opinions and biases. And I did not watch the entire thing. I watched
Hmm.
clips, but it did seem to me like there was some deflecting going on. Instead of just some straightforward responses, some of the answers were like trying to change the subject, at one point bringing up how high the Dow has gotten, even though that wasn't related to anything that was being asked. I'm wondering what's going on behind the scenes and why we can't have transparency on this.
So when I was watching, again the clips, not the entire thing. Now, one question, and I don't know this. So they kind of, since they're able to question her, uh, they they're in hierarchy. They're higher than her in those settings, right? Because she has to answer them.
Sure, that's one way of putting it.
So I find her very dismissive. Like she just almost didn't take it seriously, attacked the people personally, and I believe she also harmed from the beginning her position and the things that she said. Like when she took the office, she said everything's on her desk.
Hmm.
Everyone has this high expectation of okay, so tomorrow we are going to know what's happening. And then she came back. She said, "Well, there's really nothing there." The same issue that I see with the FBI director, where he said there's no files. And now they released 3.5 million files, and there's still more.
Hmm.
Now there's some trust issue at this point, and I think Bondi's interaction with the Senate and the Congress people, Congress, I actually didn't think she was helping Trump administration. So not necessarily she needs to, but she's appointed by him. You would expect her to help, but I just don't know someone in that position why they wouldn't take things seriously. It was kind of disappointing overall.
I think, regardless of where you fall politically, that most people want transparency and that we just want to know what happened, what's going on, and to just get what we were, for lack of a better word, what we were promised. Like I said, uh, the House and the Senate unanimously passed legislation to release the entirety of what has been coined the Epstein files, and that just it hasn't happened yet, and I think there's frustration on all sides because of that.
I see. So Prince Andrew got arrested. I think it was yesterday. Um, I don't know if there was anyone before in the royal family recently was arrested.
Not that I know of, although I find it interesting that there are a couple of prominent people in other countries that have been arrested, whereas in this country, it seems like the only people who have so far faced any responsibility are Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't know of any arrests that have been made in this country. Whereas I know I saw Prince Andrew, and then there was someone else I just saw as before I was coming here today. I was reading the Times. In New Zealand, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I mean, there are prominent people who look like they are going to face consequences for their actions. I'm just curious to see if any of those people end up coming out of this country.
So Lex Wexner was being, he was in the deposition, and he was freely talking, and then his lawyer whispered in his ears. I actually didn't hear exactly if that's what he said, but he was kind of saying that if he says one more thing, he's going to kill him. So the lawyer. So because he was giving too much information,
I missed the first part. Was it? You said this was Epstein during his deposition?
So it was related to his Epstein's relationship,
Okay.
financially, his relationship
Got it.
with him and with the others, how the money is being transferred, and he was giving a lot of information, and then he was being stopped. And very old guy, I think he's over 90. Do we have his age? Lex Wexner. So I think he's about 90. It looks really old. So now, this, I mean, you don't have to answer this, and I'm not trying to really just put you on. He's 88, so it's almost 90. So if, let's say, if 3-4 different former presidents were charged, what does that tell us about this whole thing? So how should we feel about it? Personally, I'm not asking from the
Right.
business point.
I mean, that's going to be up to each individual person how they're going to feel and how they're going to react. I think that me personally, I will be disappointed is an understatement. You would hope that your leaders would have integrity, would have decency, would have empathy and compassion. So, yeah, it would be, I don't know, maybe devastating is maybe too strong a word, but I'd be very upset. I mean, and that's something that I hear a lot from people who are pushing back against releasing the entire files. Oh, well, so and so could be in there. This person who you really like, you might find out that they're in there. Okay, well, like I said last time, if you've broken the law, nobody's above the law. As disappointing as it might be to see somebody that you respect and admire and to realize that they were doing horrible things, they still deserve to face the consequences.
So I think the issue is like the collectiveness of the problem. So it's not like one person, let's say, fine. Clinton has a lot of legal cases. I think he has issues with a woman, and like since he was a governor in Arkansas, he was always in trouble. It was one person, but like now there's 4 or 5 different people, and there are other people. I just like it's a huge disappointment to me that we even have to talk about this, because we know that we are kind of just pushing so hard. Like personally, myself, I try to be a good citizen, a good role model. And we try, like everything that I write, everything that I say, everything that I put on the record, we put extra effort to make sure that this is the right thing. And at that level, when there is no fear, no worry, and boom, this happens, it just it's very disappointing.
Yes, and speaking from the perspective of an American, I think that trust in the political system has been in a downward spiral for a while now. There's a lot of distrust in politicians and in the system itself, and this is certainly not doing anything to help regain that trust.
So I guess we'll see more of these, and it's really, like I say this, I mean it when I say this. I really don't want to talk about this anymore, but that's not going to be possible. So there are a lot of other things that we can, but then this takes the entire news. So this is huge. So I guess we are going to talk about it more in the future, unfortunately. So, and maybe from this one to the next meeting that we have, next session we have with you, I'm sure there will be some arrests that we are going to see even in the United States.
I certainly hope so. Let's see.
So now we are going to go into our second topic for today. So one issues that we have, you and I just want to build some of the topics as we talk. And on the Epstein issue, I see how we were able to do it, because everything was gradually kind of built on what we covered, and then we covered some more, and then someone can watch like 4 or 5 different episodes, and they would be able to find almost very objective information from our sessions, which is great. So
right, I definitely try to be as objective as possible.
And I do too. So now on the ChatGPT or the AI related issues, because we are trying to bring different perspectives, some fun, some more serious. Like my music career is ending because I'm not able to use some of them for the copyrights anymore. Did I send you the songs yet?
No, I don't think you've
So
sent me the songs.
I'm going to. So there are 6 of them.
Wow,
So,
you've been busy.
Well, I don't do them, so. So AI is able to do it very quick. In fact, when I was in Turkey, I did one with my brother-in-law. I just wanted him to see how easy to do the lyrics and do the music, and how many times we can actually mix it with different things. So he's like, whoa, like this is scary. I'm like, well, it's only scary if you don't know what how you are using it. So but we have something more serious today that we need to talk about, is which we kind of went into this a little bit. These OpenAI related lawsuits, there are 7 of them. I shared those with you, and I know you have them, and this is more about like what's going to happen and who's responsible at the end of the day. Anyone, let's say, who's over 18, we can consent. One of the things that you said was interesting to me on the Epstein files. The victims were not able to consent because they were underage. On the ChatGPT side, that's not the case. So most of them are over 18, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
There are 2 teens, and then the rest are, yes, over 18.
So, and I still don't know what my position is, whether or not it's the responsibility of the OpenAI, or if the individual who is searching, because sometimes I share this with you, I have to be careful with what I'm, searching. So now I have these different projects on ChatGPT, and then I put instructions. So some of them I share with my team. There's one with medicine. So the project name is medicine. So it utilizes only verified sources, and and even when I'm searching clinical things, because I do case conferences every day, sometimes I don't know what this clinical term is. And I'm like someone is seeing what I'm doing, and what's their take on what I'm doing, right? So if I was a criminal, if I was searching criminal-related topics, someone is watching it. I'm just thinking out loud. On these behavioral health issues, I'm gonna kind of put them under. So these individuals are looking for certain guidance from AI. So from the overall perspective, does that put the OpenAI or the companies like OpenAI in any risk from the legal side?
Yeah, I think first it might be kind of helpful if people aren't aware of what's going on for me to just give like the 2-minute overview. So there are 7 lawsuits currently filed in California against OpenAI. OpenAI owns ChatGPT.
Yep.
And these lawsuits allege that there are certain people who were using ChatGPT, and in so doing, were almost coerced into either taking their own lives or just having, for lack of a better term, complete mental breakdowns. And depending on how much time we have, we can sort of get into the nitty-gritty of the different lawsuits and the different...
We can summarize the cases if you have them with you, or I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time summarizing each one. The one that really stands out to me is Zane Shamblin.
Right, that's the first one I have.
That was the first one that I became aware of. So this was a 23-year-old, healthy, liked working out, seemed to have a good relationship with his parents, well educated, and for whatever reason was having some mental health issues, and started having a conversation with ChatGPT where he was discussing ending his own life. And ChatGPT, there were no flags or anything that were raised. He was just, Zane was going back and forth, saying things that you would think that you could build into the tech that would alert a human being or automatically call 911. Because Zane was saying things like, I've got the cold metal of a gun pressed against my temple, and essentially having sort of a countdown to taking his own life. And the ChatGPT was responding. Well, the term I kept hearing from the lawsuits was sycophantic. So meaning like essentially saying that the ChatGPT was created to say what the user wanted it to say. So the ChatGPT was essentially encouraging this kid to take his own life, which he ultimately did. There was another one. This was a teenage boy. He was using ChatGPT to go back and forth with, again, taking his own life, asking questions like, well, how do I make a noose? How long do I have to stop breathing before I'll die? And ChatGPT did come back and ask, well, why do you want to make a noose? And his response was, oh, I'm making a tire swing. Just something where a human being talking to a 17-year-old who's telling them about how depressed he is and asking how to make a noose, a human being would understand the intricacies of that and wouldn't be hoodwinked by the kid saying, oh, I'm just making a tire swing. And we could just go down the list, but they're all very similar.
What about Joshua, well, not my Joshua, but Joshua Anakin. So this is the person who has gender identity issue, anxiety, and suicidal ideation, and ChatGPT guide him to buy a firearm and other things. Where is the kind of like, we have this issue of privacy on one hand, because like the reason I kind of disclose what I'm doing, and I'm going to actually tell you something interesting, because what was the guy's name? Nick, oh my God, I forgot his name. So I'm a little bit jet lagged. So in case, so the kind of like a little bit on the right side, radical right, Nick.
Are you talking about Nick Fuentes?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I'm very interested to hear where we're going.
So the reason, I just because I want people to kind of understand what we are dealing with. So, and I always share these personal things so then people understand and relate to what we are talking about. And we are not news anchors, so we are not doing this for just news. So we are doing this to educate public as much as possible. And one of the issues is with the Epstein issue, he's like, oh, this is not a pedophilia. They're not. That group is not pedophile. So then I went to my medicine project and I put what is pedophilia. And when I was putting that, I was worried about it. So this is where I'm coming to the privacy issue. Like, how is ChatGPT, or why would ChatGPT or any other AI be responsible? If they're underage, one thing, but if they're 18 and over, when to stop me? Like, how does it know that I'm actually really searching this for specific issues that we discuss? Because turns out that he was right medically, from the medical standpoint, he's right. So in order for someone to be a pedophile, the victims needs to be under 13 and less in terms of their age.
Well,
no. At least ChatGPT told me.
Oh, okay. That's what ChatGPT said?
So from the medical standpoint, that's the definition. If they are, because actually it kind of made sense. If between 14 to 17, many countries in the Middle East, kids, we call them, but people, they get married when they're 15, 16. So if we just call that pedophilia, then we are gonna actually have a big group of people, and a lot of countries is gonna be in that category. And but the reason I'm sharing this is because when I was putting it, I didn't want someone on the ChatGPT or OpenAI side to say, hey, what is this guy doing? Why is he searching for this? So some conditions that we have in the case conference, this is the full medical, spectrum, and we have a lot of different conditions that we have to. Sometimes I just don't know, and then I search, and every time I put something sensitive, there's this mechanism in my head stops me or say, hey, you need to put this in a better sentence so that it's understood. So it's not like, if I'm concerned about the privacy, how is ChatGPT gonna separate, like, someone really gonna kill themselves, or if they're just really looking for, maybe they're gonna write a movie or they're gonna write something else. That's kind of like not clear to me.
First, I feel legally obligated to explain that each jurisdiction looks at the age of consent differently. So, for example, in Delaware, I believe it's 12 and under cannot consent to sex whatsoever. You can theoretically consent if you're older, like a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old can consent to having sex with someone up to the age of 18. And if you're 17 or older, you can consent to having sex with someone 29 or younger. So I would call a grown man who has sex with a 16-year-old a pedophile. I just want to put that on the record. When it comes to your question, though, regarding privacy, I mean, that's an issue with the internet even outside of AI, because, if you are looking up child sex abuse images, even if you're not using artificial intelligence to do it, the FBI has ways to track that, and they look at that. And the idea is, well, you don't have a right to privacy when it comes to breaking the law. So if you are looking up pedophilia and enough red flags are raised that it would indicate that there's probable cause that you might be looking at child sex abuse images, then you don't have privacy doesn't factor into it anymore. You're breaking the law, so the FBI has the right to investigate that, and they can arrest you for that. When it comes to AI, I mean, look, I don't know the tech part of it very much. No, that's a lie. I don't know the tech part of it at all. But I'm sure that there's not a human being who's reading every single thing that gets put into Chat GPT. That just the manpower alone would be it would be impossible. But I think that you can build a version of AI that will raise certain red flags when there's like trigger words or certain terms that are used. And I mean, if the technology is available to create artificial intelligence that can like write a thesis or that can like create music or write a book, surely there must be a way to build into it safeguards where if you're using certain words like gun, cold steel, hopelessness, despair, I don't know, there'd be hundreds, thousands of words, that it would not get you in trouble or get you arrested, but would raise enough red flags that at that point a human being would step in and say, hey, are you all right? Or it could automatically even call law enforcement or 911. The idea not being that you're going to get arrested, but that it's for people's safety.
So I don't know where to kind of like draw the line there. And probably we'll see this, and then when we discuss this in the other episodes, you know, I do know that this is going to go into it's going to become part of the law enforcement's tool to identify potential criminals, and I don't know what that means overall for privacy. But I think we are going to see more cases. Like I think these are kind of like these are maybe brave enough people to come out and then just file the lawsuit or their families, but there are probably many that we are not aware of. So if this becomes, let's say, 100, I'm sure government is going to take another action on the privacy and then take this to a next level. Would that be better for society in terms of potential crime being eliminated, perhaps?
I'm not sure what you... Can you give me an example of what you mean by the government will step in with privacy?
Because if ChatGPT is required to report, let's say Ethan, because he's having issues there with the sound, so I'm going to use him. So if he's trying to kill someone after this episode, and then he just starts searching for fire gun, and then I'm going to kill this person, and then just put specifics. How do I do this the best? Like, he's just working on a scenario that's kind of, chances are this person is about to do something bad.
Okay.
At that point, I believe government or the law may become, force ChatGPT or the OpenAI to report that to the law enforcement early on, so they can investigate before he does something crazy.
Okay.
So that, I mean,
sure. I mean, that seems reasonable, I guess.
So would that be, from the legal standpoint, would that become the new norm, or is it even like with today's domain in today's domain, is it even possible for us to require companies to do that?
I mean, I don't deal with this kind of law. We're talking about criminal law. We're talking about I can only make assumptions here. I just don't know that there's a right to privacy to search on the internet. I wouldn't think that you could be arrested or prosecuted or anything for like searching how to kill somebody because you haven't committed a crime yet. It's not a crime to learn how to kill somebody, but if you're researching enough that there are some notifications made to law enforcement so law enforcement can investigate, to my mind, that's not a breach of privacy, because I think of the internet as being an open forum, but honestly, from a legal standpoint, I'm not sure of the answer.
So, again, with the AI, we are going to look into the different aspect of it. So this is one maybe not so fortunate part of it, and I'm always there for more technology, more advancements. I think it does empower us when it's utilized in the right way. We see this in our medical offices, where now the physicians are able to, like right now we have an eye contact, right? So if we were talking and I'm not looking at you, this was what was happening in the exam rooms. And then AI took this to a different level. So now they don't have to type anything. They talk, they do their treatment, and AI captures everything from documentation side. You can put voice orders saying that, okay, I need you to get an X-ray, get this medication, that, and AI does that for you. So it just makes the patient experience, it takes the patient experience to a different level. And also the information that I'm able to access, I as being like our providers, our physicians, our non-physician providers, when because they don't know everything, right? So they just need to access, so then they can check they have the foundation. But if they need to search, or some research projects with the AI now, they are being accelerated, so then we are going to be able to analyze a lot more things in a very short amount of time. So there's so much gain that we are going to get from this, but I feel like these types of things are going to get the public attention. And people, especially 55 and over, typical 55 and over, they're going to start feeling, oh, this is like the end of the world, but it's not. So it's another level of what is happening. So I'm sure when the first when the train was invented, so they had the same feeling that time. So the train is replacing everyone else's jobs, or the cars, or the electricity, and this, and like every new development created these types of anxieties in different generations. And AI is going to be our generation challenge, but there are a lot of good things that can do for us, but we still need to discuss these things, so then we can make better decisions, and we can understand this whole thing better.
Okay. I don't know how we're doing on time, because I feel like we're probably wrapping up.
We have about 6 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But
because what I wanted to say was, I still think it's important to remember that artificial intelligence is a product. Somebody is creating it, they're making it, and they're putting it out into the marketplace. And the laws are going to change and adapt, I'm sure, because like AI, artificial intelligence, isn't the same as like, I don't know, a hairdryer or a car or something physical or tangible that you can hold. But as long as it's still a product, which it is, companies that are creating these products, marketing these products, and then putting them out in the marketplace have a legal requirement in each jurisdiction. There are product liability laws that they have to make sure that these products are free from defects. And the argument that I'm sure is going to be made in these cases in California is that the AI, as it was put out and presented at that time, was defective because it didn't have the proper safeguards in place to prevent these tragedies from happening. I can also think of tons of examples of defenses to that. I'm not saying that these are going to be successful lawsuits. I'm just saying that it's hard to visualize ChatGPT as a product because it's just ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's on my phone. It's on your computer. It's all over the place. But at the end of the day, human beings made it. They're profiting from it. And because of that, they have legal obligations to withhold.
So they have to be accountable, and accountability has to be in place. You are absolutely right. And speaking of that, one of the new development in Turkey, their new one of the new ministers in charge of their justice department, what they are trying to push is what we discussed before in social media. You have to register with your social security number in Turkey.
Okay.
It didn't happen yet, but that's what they are working on. they need to validate the person, so they need to know that is you, whoever is going to be on the social media. And I think that's one of the accountability that is needed while we are going through with these ChatGPT and other AI-related developments. There has to be accountability. There's so much, too many false information, and people just copy paste, and there has to be accountability, and they need to be liable for what they are doing. I think that's going to be one of the main things that we are going to see.
Not to do a 180, but there's also copyright issues, because I saw like the New York Times is suing OpenAI and Sam Atwell, whatever the CEO's name is, for copyright infringement, because you put some things into AI and it's pulling information from all of these sources, including the New York Times, and the New York Times is saying, hey, that information is copyrighted and you're using it without our permission. And interestingly, I was seeing that a lot of like authors and people have joined that lawsuit, including George R.R. Martin, who wrote the Game of Thrones books. It's going to be really fascinating to see how the law develops and adapts, and where it's going to move forward from here.
Well, we'll see a lot of probably some funny, some not so funny things. I think one of the news that I heard yesterday is, I think there was some human-like robots in India, and they stole that from someone else, and then they were trying to get into the competition, I believe, or it was kind of like show, and then they were banned. So they're making it very openly now. They're not even hiding it. So then now, again, technology actually helps us to find these things, process these things much faster, so then we know what's happening. So hopefully next time we'll discuss some other topics. So I definitely don't want to do Epstein, but I don't think we have a choice. And in a 1 month time frame, I know there will be a lot of things. But one of the things that I want to also discuss is what's happening in Delaware. And some companies, as you know, we discussed this before, but maybe we can actually just look into that a little bit more. A lot of big companies, Fortune 500 companies, now start leaving Delaware, and there's some impact, a big impact perhaps, in Delaware overall budget. And I know this has something to do with our legal system, and things were not so some companies were not so happy. It started with Elon Musk and Tesla leaving. So I definitely want to cover that hopefully next time. But I think this was overall more like a dialogue again, so because we just needed to understand what's happening. And a lot of people I get these days, a lot of people come to me and say, hey, now they're listening a little bit more carefully and better understand what's happening, because we are not motivated by anything other than objective information that we know. And hopefully everyone finds this helpful and they can continue to follow us. So I do want to share we finally got our 100,000, which was last year, but it was a little bit delayed. So now we have it. So now we are working on 1 million. So I know Jessica is going to help us with that, because your participation in the show also brings us a lot of people following us. So
sure, I'll bring in another 900,000 subscribarians, no problem.
It's only 750.
Oh, that's right, because you're at 250 now.
Well, thank you for joining me today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll be back with our Bariatric Friday with Dr. Erkan. So, and anyone wants to say goodbye to Joshua? Or Joshua, so you are making a mess. Come over here. So let's show you.
He was a very good boy. I thought for sure a light or a camera was going to get knocked over.
So, see, now you are famous.
No.
Did you want to say anything? No? Okay. Thank you for being a good boy, okay? All right. Well, thank you again, and we'll be back. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.